Is the Mises Caucus position that you can be a bigot and be a member of the Libertarian Party?
Yeah, I think that is absolutely the position.
Yeah.
Because we don't agree on what being a bigot means.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it look bad that you're removing a plank that says that you're against bigots? Like, what's the harm in saying you're against such a thing?
Well,
or letting other people see that?
It quote unquote looks bad to say that we're in favor of legalizing heroin, but we care about the truth. So
okay.
I don't actually think that someone who's trying to be a truth seeker and understand what's going on and asked a question about whether or not Jews run Hollywood is an anti-Semite.
So the issue, I think, is cities are too dense. The culture is too fractured. This idea of multiculturalism is just...
It's a failed experiment.
First question, though, I got to ask, what is that T-shirt?
This
is a day where your movement is taking over the Libertarian Party. I'm investing a lot of, value in what you're wearing. What is that?
Well, it's a Jordan Peterson shirt.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 50 of the Fakertarians podcast. Archie really liked that one. I'm your host, John Hudak, along with Jeremy Kantorowicz, Archie Flower, and our tech guy. So our tech guy has a name, but we just call him tech guy. So we've got a lot to go over here. It's been 2 months?
June 4th, so a little over 2 months.
Over 2 months. Wow. I feel like we haven't done this in forever. Like I don't even know what to do next. What do we do at this point? I think I asked.
What's on the agenda tonight?
I have some things written down over here, but how's everyone been the last 2 months?
How is everybody?
Really good.
Yeah, things have been good.
I'm
boring, so yeah, summer's going by too fast. Weekends are short. Such is life.
It happens.
Yeah, summer is like boom.
So we got a lot to talk about here. So since the last time we talked, we covered some of the Mises Caucus takeover stuff because we did that stream right after it happened, and then we did a stream a week later. But there's been a lot of developments since then. Then Roe v. Wade happened, so we got a lot to discuss. First of all, I don't know if anyone's been keeping an eye on the Libertarian Party Twitter, but if that's their idea of what good messaging is, we have a difference in opinion.
It's not a difference in opinion, it's a difference in facts. Factually, it's terrible messaging.
Facts,
so
philosophy.
When a guy like James Lindsay gets banned from Twitter for just... what did he even get banned for? I know he's one of those people that thinks everything is critical race theory and just freaks out about the gays all the time, kind of like the LP's new communications director, but we'll get that out later. But the day after he got banned, the LP put out a tweet saying that McCarthy didn't go far, it was McCarthy underestimated the threat or something like that. And it's really, you want to feature the guy who's not even a libertarian going on about McCarthyism? You really think propping up Joseph McCarthy is going to really reach people? Because I don't think if you did some opinion polls or something, I don't think you're going to get very high favorables on Joseph McCarthy. And I know we shouldn't just base everything on opinion polls, but it's not like McCarthyism is a main viewpoint of libertarianism. It's not like, oh yeah, we should legalize heroin even if people think we shouldn't. Talk about that, but not talk about McCarthyism. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I think it goes to their chosen core demographic.
Yeah, it definitely does. You even have.
Right. It's obvious who they're trying to appeal to. I mean, it's pretty blunt.
And you had the guy who runs or is supposed to be like in charge of the Twitter with Dave Smith. His name is Dave Benner. He's very national committee. He writes for this neo-Confederate organization.
You're breaking up a little, John. John, you broke up.
Technical difficulties. Could you hear me through that or no? Okay.
One more time.
No. Try it again.
Yeah. So he writes for this guy Dave Benner. He's on the Libertarian National Committee. He writes for this neo-Confederate organization called the Abbeville Institute. He was going on Twitter after that tweet came out about how McCarthy is like unfairly denigrated, and he was basically just standing up for Joseph McCarthy, which I think is kind of weird. But we also had God, I have a whole list of stuff here. There's so much to cover. I mean, we can't just go 2 months anymore. We had Jeremy Kauffman stuff about how he says he's for reparations, and the reparations are, I'm paraphrasing here, but if you're a black person who had an ancestor who was a slave, he'll buy you like a ticket to Africa, or he'll make you shut up, or he'll tell you to shut up, which is really gonna, I mean, again, what demographic is that going to appeal to? I think it's the angry racist demographic. What else do we got here? Oh, yeah, and then Joshua Smith going off about globo homo, which he likes to say, like, he's like, oh, yeah, that's not anti-gay. Okay, call it global homogenization or whatever, but that doesn't even make any sense in that context. His tweet was something like, if the thing to do if you're a parent and to piss off the globo homo or whatever he said is to have your boys like work boots and jeans or wear dresses, and I don't get how that's supposed to oppose global homogenization. Like that's clearly speaking about like gay people or trans people or something. Like it's an LGBTQ kind of thing. It's not a homogenization, and it's frequently used by people like Peter Quinones. It's used by the alt-right all the time. Like the mask is fully off at this point. The mask has been like thrown out the window. Like it's not even near you anymore. And with Angela going on Tim Pool saying that multiculturalism is a failed experiment, and there's nothing about the context that makes it better. Poole was talking about how cities are too big, and then he said multicultural. He started talking about multiculturalism, and she basically cut him off and said it's a failed experiment. Like there's nothing more to the story there. What demographic, in terms of politics, are you appealing to if you're saying that multiculturalism is a bad idea? It's the alt-right again, which is all they do.
Right.
I don't want to monopolize the
traveler.
conversation.
That's the demographic.
Pretty much. And then there was what else do I have written down? I've got that Libertarian Party of Delaware Pride Month tweet where they were talking about like, I don't remember if they mentioned cultural Marxism, but they mentioned something about, it was in the intro, they mentioned something about degeneracy and then child sexual abuse. And then one of the hashtags on it was Pride Month. It was was Pride Month June or July? I'm losing track of my days here. Yeah, and they hashtagged it Pride Month, and everyone was like, "What the hell?" And they didn't retract it or anything like that. Like and that's where I wonder if it's Dave Casey behind that, because he's big in LP Delaware, but he probably would have had a pirate video with it. But
yeah, it's absolutely Dave Casey. That's tweeting that stuff out, just based on the style and stuff.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And he's always inflammatory like that. Like he's not going to take something back.
Yeah.
Who else do we have here? Legit just going down a list right now. What about Reed Cooley? So I had some tweets of his open before, but I closed out all my windows because my Wi-Fi is screwing up, so I don't want to be on different websites. But I know he used to be maybe the communications director for Young Americans for Liberty until
he had some made up.
Could be off a little bit.
Yeah, he had some like made up title, vice president of whatever, but he basically ran their Twitter and stuff. But I think after after YAL2 and everything, I think they let him go, basically because he was not who they wanted to try to appeal to, going forward after Cliff and stuff,
which actually reminds me of another thing we have to talk about, which is Mises Caucus getting shut out of some liberty conventions. That's another thing.
Why would that happen?
But with
to those guys?
Reed Cooley, the guy we're talking about, was recently named the communications director of the Libertarian Party. I didn't know a whole lot about him. I knew he was pretty active in some right-wing circles. So the day that he was hired, or the day that announcement was made that he was hired, I did a little bit of looking into him just real quick. Found him complaining about like gay people, gay people infiltrating the church or something like that. Well, he didn't say who he was talking about, but it was curious. It was clear that it was some kind of like anti-LGBTQ thing. He was saying that like they're trying to infiltrate and they should be viewed as enemies or something like that. Let me pull up the exact one so I don't misquote him here.
Yeah. While you're looking for that one, he's got he's constantly all over Libs of TikTok's tweets.
Of course he is.
Yeah, the fact that we allow all ages drag shows proves how far gone this country is now.
Okay, so here's a few I dug up on the day that he was hired. And this was 4 days before he was hired, this tweet I'm about to talk about. There was a Lauren Boebert tweet, that crazy lady out of Colorado, the Republican in the House, who is just saying, like, the left is trying to stop my reelection and give me money. What's up?
John, can I just point out that when you're talking about the LP and crazy lady from Colorado, you do need to be more specific.
Crazy lady, not Karen Ann. Is that better?
You. Thank you, yes.
But she was talking about how the left is trying so hard to stop her reelection. And Reed Cooley, 4 days before the announcement was made that he was the LP communications director, because I don't know how long it's actually been in the works. I don't know if he was actually hired at that time. But he responded saying, "They're fighting you this hard because they know you're a threat." So apparently he's a big Lauren Boebert fan, which seems like exactly what I would expect from the Mises Caucus. He's also
she's married to.
Worried.
Well, I mean, Lauren Boebert's married to a guy that showed his dick to some kids at a bowling alley.
That's not grooming. That's just Catholicism.
Oh, but, that's different.
He's also pretty worried about the gays taking over. The tweets I was talking about, he said, so there was a picture saying God's pronouns are they/them, First Congregational Church of Pasadena, United Church of Christ, and then it just like has when they meet and stuff like that. So it seems like it's like some progressive Christian church, like whatever people want to do. And he wrote, "I've said it before and I'll say it again. Every one of their attempts to infiltrate Christianity should be treated as an attempt to destroy Christianity." And then he had another tweet. He really likes thinking that gay people are infiltrating, apparently, because 2 days later, this was a Facebook post. You're not supposed to give away your plan here. Heiss is going to stop you. Cultural Marxism. He made a post saying, "Do they have to infiltrate everything?" And it's like a link to some, or like a preview of a link to some website that doesn't even look like a real website. It's like today.in-24.com. And it says Tolkien's new book confirms LGBT relationships in Middle Earth. So that's what he's mad about. I don't even know if this is a real website, but like, who cares if there's LGBT relationships in Middle Earth? Like, fine, there's those in real life too. Like there's like elves and shit there. Or no, not, I haven't seen Lord of the Rings in forever. Are there elves? I forget. There's hobbits and shit. Like, so then you're worried about gay people? Like, that's a real thing. But yeah, so that's the new guy. And what does the communications director do exactly? I imagine they're kind of in charge of some things put out by the party.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the scope of it, but I would assume that he is somewhat in charge of, the messaging that goes out on, on the Twitter, Facebook, or, I don't know the whole scope of it, but I imagine that's under his purview.
Okay, so we went through that. Well, there's their tweets about Trump from the last few days where they were like, they're not just saying that they should abolish the FBI and that the FBI is corrupt. I mean, I'm good with that, but they're specifically mad about the Trump raid. It's like, that seems like one of the only decent things the FBI has done is like investigating a corrupt authoritarian. Like, if there's one thing the FBI should do, it's looking into Trump, because we know the guy's corrupt. We know the guy's power hungry. He basically wanted to be a dictator. He tried to install himself as one. I mean, so you would think that a libertarian organization would be fine with one of the most powerful authoritarians in the world. Well, I mean, he's still pretty damn powerful. He's got a giant following, but you would think a libertarian organization would be like, yeah, maybe there's something up with this guy. Maybe he actually should be looked into.
We know for sure that had this been investigating Hillary or serving a warrant on her place or whatever, that they would have been all over it and cheering them on.
And good, because Hillary's corrupt too. But she
is.
It would have been a double
I'm just pointing out the double standard. That's all. Because I mean, they should all be investigated. In my book, I mean, they're all corrupt bastards.
I mean, it should almost be just almost should be part of part of exiting the a job, because because power corrupts and you tend to do sneaky things and then you get away with it because I understand the from the legal aspect of being able to prosecute somebody in that position, as far as finding a fair jury and all that, and and sometimes why they don't prosecute, and just political, but if you make it a norm versus what the norm is now, and that's just saying, well, she just mishandled some some classified information, bad Hillary, and then leave it at that, then the next guy comes in and thinks he can take documents from with special security clearance down to his his little club in Florida, and but yeah, they went, the troubling raid against former President Trump is nothing new. After all, the FBI's very purpose and formation in 1908 was to monitor, harass, and punish critics of the state, and that's what really got me with that.
Critics of the state, like Donald Trump.
Critics of the state, like what? Right. It's complete gibberish. And that's what it is. And a lot of
imagine if they were talking about an FBI raid of Hillary like that.
Right. Known critic of the state, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
It would be just as absurd. Like I'm sure they've both done really corrupt things, but they're not trying to appeal to Hillary Clinton supporters. They're trying to appeal to Donald Trump supporters. Right. Basically like half of Dave's audience at this point.
I actually don't think they're trying to appeal. I think they are appealing to Donald Trump supporters. There's no try involved.
No, that is true.
Yeah. What else? And they posted stuff. They get roasted a lot for things.
Oh yeah.
People are like shut up. Yeah.
It's even more of a shit show than I thought it would be. I thought they'd kind of like keep the mask on at least for a bit, at least for like maybe like 6 months or something like that. But they basically turned into the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire Twitter within like 2 weeks. Like going off of they're tweeting about Rockwell and Hoppe and stuff like that. Like there's a guy on Twitter that worst account who talks about how like the purpose of the Mises Caucus is just to piss off other libertarians. Like that's all they want to do. And I mean, I could see it. Because like, why would you? What do you think? Just tweeting out like we love Lou Rockwell or however they put it. What's that going to do? Someone's going to look him up and be like, oh yeah, this guy's suspected of writing the Ron Paul newsletters, and he wrote a pro-police brutality op-ed, and he just posted I almost said Stormfront, Daily Stormer, same thing basically. He posted a Daily Stormer link on his website about like being mad, like the link was like mad about like interracial marriage and like gay sex or something like that. Like that was like the problems with America. Like how is again, who are you trying to appeal to? That's the question you got to ask over and over.
Paleos, Groypers, and MAGAs.
It's very clear at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they can define bigot because that's who they're directly, marketing to. They just don't want to admit they can define bigot.
So someone in our comments is mad about half-remembered paraphrases and subjective interpretation. The only reason I haven't been reading off of tweets is, again, because I moved to a new apartment and I'm having some internet issues today that I'm trying to get fixed, so I'm not trying to like be opening a bunch of other tabs and doing a bunch of stuff. But if you have any specific ones you want to see, I'd be happy to look it up for you. Because I've seen these. If you go back to the intro to this podcast, a lot of the ones I've talked about were actually featured in the intro. Mm-hmm. So I put them right in there with screenshots. There's video of Angela saying that bigots are welcome in the Libertarian Party because she has a different definition of bigotry. Which again, let's talk about that for a second, because how much of a bullshit excuse is that we can't define bigotry, but she has no problem defining like woke or critical race theory, which are significantly harder to define. Like I don't know if can she not open a dictionary? Is like what's her problem here with just the word? I know we can't appeal the dictionary, but with just the word bigot, like it seems like she's fine defining anything against the left, but she has some trouble defining things against the right.
Yep. Well, and I mean that's just that's the game that they play. Is well, bigotry is just such a it's such a term, or it's thrown around too much, or whatever. Just kind of like how they are with the alt-right doesn't really exist anymore, or whatever, and and they just try to downplay, dismiss, deflect. But they've grabbed onto words like woke, and that woke just means anything she doesn't like, and that's all it is.
Yeah, and they talk about I was rewatching some of the Reason.com interviews with them. I don't remember if this was McCardle or Heiss there. I think it was Heiss. He was talking about how like bigots are welcome because the only part of libertarianism is the non-aggression principle, and as long as you don't violate that, like you're fine. But I mean, the LP has been tweeting stuff out about being against wokeism and being against critical race theory. Like wokeism is not aggression in itself. Like their argument would be that there could be aggression that would come from wokeism. I feel so dumb using the word wokeism. But, their argument could be that there could be aggression that could come from that, but there's sure as hell, if you're going to use that line of thinking, there sure as hell is aggression that could come from racism. Like there's been a very long history of it continuing to today. There's still people who want to use the state to further racism. They want to keep different races out and stuff like that, or want to send cops at black people. Like that's definitely a thing. What is the exact problem with condemning racism that they're so afraid of?
Condemning their core audience.
Yeah, I mean
they don't want to condemn Dave's fellow traveler.
It's their core audience is racists and people who are okay being around racists. Like,
if they condemned racism, they'd have to condemn, Ron Paul standing directly next to Ryan Dawson, looking at I'm not sure what kind of poster, and both of them smiling. I believe that was at the Take Human Action Bash at Reno.
Oh God, I don't know if Dawson was. I know there was a
Reed Coverdale posted the pics.
Yeah, I don't think that was the Take Human Action Bash. I think that was another event somewhere out west, maybe Colorado or something like that. Because I remember seeing Coverdale talk about that one.
Okay,
but,
well, maybe not.
They're fine with the excuses they make for people like Dawson, though, are just hilarious. Like when I tweet out the video of Dawson basically like blaming the Jews for everything in the world, where he's like pedophilia, Jews, wars, Jews. And then he ends it saying like, he ends it basically justifying Hitler, saying like, and for no reason at all, they elected Adolf Hitler. And then the end of that video is him wondering about how to get rid of parasites, and it had a Zyklon B thumbnail. It's like, how obvious can you be? And they're like, no, he's just talking about Zionists. And like, he talks about Zionists at other points in the thing. But even if you're just talking about Zionists, like, Zionists aren't responsible for every problem in the world. Like, that's absurd too. But it wasn't just like, it's very clear that Dawson is talking about Jews in general. If you're saying Jews, you're talking about Jews. You're not just talking about Zionists, again, which is another dumb argument. But these people will just contort themselves into knots to avoid any of this. They talk about how we misrepresent Dawson, even though he goes around with doing the triple parentheses stuff. Oh, what's going on here? The meaning of most words are controlled by Marxists. Woke is a word whose meaning has escaped the control of. Was Merriam-Webster a Marxist?
Yes, Merriam-Webster is a Marxist.
I have to ask, banner yet wave, are you Jacob Winograd under some alternate account? Just curious. just asking questions, just seeking truth.
Truth seeker. I'm not saying that Jacob Winograd controls all the accounts. I'm just asking questions.
I mean,
I don't even have anything for that. Okay, dude. Whatever.
I'm not going to just pick on Jacob, because there's a lot of turds in that punch bowl. But
oh yeah,
okay. Marxists control all the language. Wow, really? I mean, yeah, there's influence out there, but there's propaganda from every direction.
Right.
Language is hyper weaponized at this point in time, and you can like try to say something and then the meaning is obvious, but you've used words that have been weaponized and everything goes to shit faster than you can blink.
Well, Marxists control the language because I can't scream the N-word at Walmart.
There you go.
Yeah, what was Pope
it's just I don't get this whole thing about how Marxists control.
Don't forget to
everything.
read this one that's on the screen currently.
Well, it's not Ryan Dawson. I'll say that.
Not Nick Fuentes.
What? Yeah. I feel like Fuentes has been up to some interesting stuff since the last time we were on here, but I forget. I know he was.
Oh, there was the he was, I think, invited to and then disinvited from Freedom Fest.
Oh yeah.
He showed up. He just didn't speak because Coverdale actually got a pic with him.
Yeah,
and
that's it. Yep,
And I may be about to mispronounce her name, Olivia Rondeau. Her boyfriend.
I'm not sure on the pronunciation of who you're talking about.
Her boyfriend and Reed and Nick took a picture right outside the theater where like the most canceled man in America or whatever the film is was playing.
Yep.
Oh God. And it's funny though because I saw Angela the other day talk about how and I'm with her on this about how like we shouldn't bring Liz Cheney into the LP because Liz Cheney has a bunch of terrible views. But it's funny, if you asked her the same question about like Fuentes, or you even asked her about like Marjorie Taylor Greene or something like that, she would totally dance around it.
Yeah,
like absolutely. Like you can name Dawson, you can name Fuentes. They wouldn't be like, oh no, they can not be involved in the LP in any capacity. It's just someone like Weld, who I'm against myself.
Can I read her tweet word for word?
Yeah.
Because this is pretty absolute. There's no semblance of a maybe inside
but the words
here.
Are controlled by Marxists.
Just to be clear, I will never support this person becoming involved with the Libertarian Party in any capacity. Not even as a volunteer at Parks cleanup event. Not even as a clown in a dunk tank for charity. Zero involvement. Now, that's crystal clear, and I agree that Liz Cheney shouldn't be in the Libertarian Party unless she changed considerably. But that kind of clarity goes out the door when you do ask about the Fuentes and the Dawsons and you know, the Brian Sharps and all of those people, and it's just insane.
Yeah, that's actually good with Brian Sharp, who, for anyone who doesn't know, that's Hotep Jesus. I mean, Angela invited him to speak at a Mises Caucus event. So she directly brought him in. He's the guy who is always another guy who's always freaking out about the Jews, saying that like he likes the alt-right because they're not afraid to call out the Jews and stuff like that. And he's had Holocaust denial posts before. He basically he's another, just like Dawson, he's another blame the Jews for everything type thing. And Angela called him a truth seeker. She invited him to something and she called him a truth seeker. She didn't say, oh no, we can't have this guy anywhere near the LP because he is fucking insane and he's a piece of shit, which he is. But she had to invite him in because, again, it's a certain demographic that they're appealing to. It's like young, edgy people basically who are hyperactive on social media and intellectual dark web shit. It's that whole kind of thing. And I mean, that demographic is overrepresented online. So I think they're going to have a pretty bad reality check if they think that's going to translate into like actual like widespread support. Oh, speaking of which, looking at their support, that fundraiser they did back over 4th of July weekend. So I want to fill anyone in on this because this is a good one. So they were trying to raise $40,000, and it was the first $10,000 was going to go to help candidates, and the next $30,000 was one of their guys, Dan Smots, I think is his name. He was going to make some video about why inflation happens or something like that, and then they were going to like air it places. So I think that's what the full $30,000 was for. And it was originally supposed to run 3 days. I think it was July 2nd to July 4th. And they put up the graphic early, and people were making fun of them because they barely had any donations on it. And they were, I think Karen Ann specifically was like, "Oh, just wait, it hasn't started yet." And then it ended, and they were only at maybe around like 7,500 out of $40,000. So they weren't even 20% of the way towards their goal. And then they edited it to like keep the fundraiser going past July 4th. And it was just up for weeks. I don't think they ever actually even hit 25%. I don't think they got to 10,000.
Yeah, they didn't.
Is it still
they
up?
Didn't get very. It's not anymore.
Okay, because
they did finally take it down, but it turned into, Money Bomb weekend. They did like a 6-hour telethon over it, and barely raised any money. So they moved the goalposts to be for the entire month, and then it still also didn't go very well.
I feel like it would have been less embarrassing if they had just kind of been like, okay, this didn't go great. Let's not like double down and extend this for the whole month. But who was it? Angela who said like there's going to be more of these by popular demand or something like that. I think it was Angela, and it's like, what popular demand are you talking about? You didn't even get to. You brought out like all your heavy hitters, like Josh was hosting it for a bit. Josh Smith. I know they had a bunch of different guys on there. And they couldn't even get to 25% in like their first major fundraiser since they took over. Like this is supposed to be like, they're supposed to be moving things now and like really like growing the party, which obviously is not actually going to happen, and really raising all the money. And it's going to be different now. See, but it's not. It's worse than it was before.
Yeah.
Well, they also had. So you said they brought on their heavy hitters. And I just want to make sure that this is tied in. They had Clint Russell on, and he's from the Tower Gang podcast. So that complete toxic shit show is actually helping. The Venn diagram is now a circle. They're directly helping with the ELP.
He got featured in an SPLC article from. About a month ago, talking about how his connections with Ryan Dawson, because Coverdale was in that too, actually. His Dawson, who we were talking about before, they actually brought him on their Tower Gang podcast for a Holocaust denial episode. And I tuned into it for a little bit. I didn't really want to waste my time with it that much. I just wanted to see what ridiculous things they might pull out. But I know Dawson was pulling something out about how the confessions at Nuremberg were brought about by torture, which that's not. I can find no actual evidence of that anywhere. It just seems like a thing that Dawson just pulled out of his ass. But I mean, if you're gonna go to the level of Holocaust denial, you're gonna have to make some things up. But it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
Well, Dawson, and facts aren't necessarily simpatico with each other.
That is true. Now that guy is that dude is just like. Do you see him? I think it was a few months ago. Get really mad at Dave Smith. Because Dave Smith didn't mention him during Dave's and maybe like a week after too, during the debate, the love fest that Dave Smith had with Nick Fuentes on that random alt-writer guys show. And Dawson was talking about, or Dawson was in the comments and then on like Twitter for the week after, mad that Dave didn't mention him as like a person who gets canceled all the time. It didn't actually like there's not actually any substance to it. Dawson was just like mad he didn't mention him. Like I can't really say anything more about it, but he just really wanted to be mentioned. So Ryan, we're mentioning you. So
just not positively like Dave would.
Well, I know Dave's had him on before.
Just seeking truth, right?
Yep.
Of course.
Let's see. What else happened? Let's see.
I think we covered most of the LP stuff.
Yeah, the only big one is probably the abortion. Roe versus
and Trump's
Wade.
raid.
Yeah, Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, because I remember we were talking about like doing a big podcast on that after it happened, and then like we just haven't done a podcast for 2 months. I mean, I don't even know what to
There's
say
a
about it anymore,
podcast, and it is after it happened.
That is true. But I think it brings up the issue for me, like on a larger scale beyond just abortion. Obviously, I'm very against the Roe v. Wade decision, but the issue of people caring more about.
You mean the repeal of it?
Yeah. Okay, you got me there. I'm very against the repeal of the Roe v. Wade decision. That would have been a bad clip. That's gonna be everywhere if people actually watch this. Hopefully they don't. We have like 5 years. But I'm very against the repeal of the Roe v. Wade decision. But I think it raises the bigger issue of people, a lot of Mises Caucus people, especially, caring more about decentralization than about liberty. Like they were all. Did I just break up for a second? I saw my video kind of.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you're breaking
I was
up a
saying
little
how the
bit.
Mises Caucus
there you
people
go.
care more. Oh, okay, we're good. How they care more about decentralization than liberty in general, because people were talking about how it gives it back to the states. Like, why do we want to give the states the right to violate people's rights? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like that's not. I don't know what that is, but it's not libertarian to say, because you could even argue that's not decentralization, because prior to the Dobbs decision, which is what I meant to say before, the right basically was with the individual. Like, yeah, it was the federal government saying that the states couldn't encroach upon it, but that effectively made it so that it was an individual's decision. But now it's basically a state's decision. Like the state can choose to step in and make it their decision.
Right.
That's kind of the opposite.
Right. They essentially, gave the states the power to ban something that they couldn't before, because it was an individual right, and it just and just a lot of things unravel from that entire line of thinking. I know they say, oh, we're not going to go after gay marriage, or no, we won't go after, Virginia versus Loving, and maybe they won't go after Virginia versus Loving, and those were decided on different different ways, but it's not a good, the entire states' rights thing is just not a good position to take. And
it's like,
I can foresee some pretty nasty things coming from it. Yep. Yeah, applying it to other issues.
Like, even apply it to something like guns or something. Like, and I know there's some of them that are consistent on this, but I saw a lot of inconsistencies. Like, there was the opinion the day before Dobbs which expanded gun rights and made it so that states couldn't infringe on people's gun rights, at least to a certain point. Would they be against that? Because if you're going to take the states' rights thing to its logical conclusion, they should be against that decision. They should say no. New York can ban whatever guns they want to, or New York can ban free speech, or do whatever, or New York can just totally disregard, or any state can just totally disregard the Fourth Amendment. Like, that's the logical conclusion of that. And I know that you can say that they say sometimes that decentralizing things makes it easier to control. And I mean, maybe that's true sometimes. Like, there are times where decentralization can be a good thing. Like, if you look at states basically nullifying federal marijuana law and making it legal, but it's decentralization shouldn't be an actual end goal. Like, you can use it as a method sometimes for sure, but not when it shouldn't be used when liberty is the actual point. Like, when it decreases liberty, it should be opposed.
Right.
Yeah, decentralization is just a tool. Using that as an actual goal is, a philosophical clusterfuck.
Yeah, I mean, because the way that the way that it's laid out, what could be done, and there's states that have talked about banning travel to other states. I mean, you've essentially given your bodily autonomy to the state in that case, and so no freedom to travel. What would a decision look like in that case? Because freedom to travel isn't in the Constitution either, but it's considered a right that the people retain. And a lot of people ignore the Ninth Amendment, and you really have to take the Ninth and 10th together to come to reasonable conclusions. These people love the 10th Amendment, but you could potentially be looking at essentially prisons for pregnant people because they have to give birth, and that's what the state said. And you could defend that legally in court, and that's just gross.
No, I'm
they're not exactly thinking it through.
Mm-hmm.
Or they are, and what they desire is something that does not look very much like liberty. It looks more like unleashing the cops.
No, I mean, because it can be used against them too, is what I'm saying.
No, that's true. And that's funny you bring that up too, because like, look at how the people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are talking about defunding the FBI now because they're mad that there was a Trump search. But the second there's like a drug raid or something, she'll just go back to her normal like back the blue type bullshit.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
what was that tweet that I saw about the FBI? The FBI can never do good things, but it can do funny things, and there's a difference. Something along those lines.
No, I know the one you're talking about.
In a couple weeks, the FBI will raid some Democratic governor, and the right will be on board with the FBI again. Don't worry. I mean,
yep. Oh, yeah.
Well, they want the Epstein's client list or whatever. They're begging the FBI to do something about that, which they should. They're currently the agency that has probably the most power and purview to do so. So go ahead and but. And who knows what they're doing in the background, or if
I was going to say.
I mean, who knows? You never know. So, but it's just the logical inconsistencies. Well, and that's and that's what this strain of right wing is. I've seen it described as a series of irritable mental gestures that parade around as ideas, and that's a lot of what it is. It has no base. It has no basis in any kind of rationality.
So I want to read this tweet because it's perfect to tie in with the FBI and everything that's going on. And I hope I don't mispronounce this guy's name. Joshua Reed, is it Eakle? Eakle?
So no, I know who you're talking about. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
He quote tweeted someone saying, "Just a friendly reminder that the FBI hasn't raided the home of a single person on Jeffrey Epstein's list." And his quote tweet is 2 pictures. One picture with Trump having his arm around Jeffrey Epstein's shoulder. The other is a picture of part of the flight log that has Donald Trump's name on it. And it's like, yep, they've raided someone on the list.
Not like that, though. No, not like that.
Did you guys see the, speaking of the whole Epstein thing, when I think he's a Fox News host. I think his name is Brian Kilmeade. He was guest hosting Tucker Carlson the other night. And he teased it before the break. And then he put up, after the commercial break, he put up a picture of, it was hilariously clearly photoshopped, of the judge who signed the search warrant for Trump's place, like with Ghislaine Maxwell, but it was probably like a Jeffrey Epstein picture, but he was trying to pass it off as like the judge being like involved in that, and even Hannity was like, I think that's just like a bad Photoshop, and Brian Kilmeade was like, oh, we'll see.
Yeah, well, there was literally like a watermark in it for whoever made it, like. Yeah. Well, I mean, we know what they're doing there.
Well, do you think he was stupid enough to like know that was a Photoshop, or not know that it was a Photoshop, or he just didn't care?
I don't think he cared, to be honest. I mean, he might be stupid too, but I don't think he cared.
Why not both?
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it was definitely pretty reckless. Let's see, what else?
What else do we want to touch on today? Anything?
Let's see.
Speaking of Roe v. Wade, there was Josh Smith going on Twitter calling women who have abortions hoes, which is, I'm sure that's exactly the behavior you want from the vice chair of the third largest political party in the United States. It's really gonna bring in the voters.
Yeah. From good old Balzania.
Yeah, I'm going through I got my phone on right now. I'm going through it.
Which the Libertarian Party account retweeted, like, it's just such a joke. It became a joke, and things became a joke so quickly, like faster than I could have ever dreamed of. Let's see, the LP was blocking people.
Let me see what we got here.
After they posted a Tom Woods.
Oh yeah, and Josh had a post go like semi-viral on Twitter where he was on the same flight as Bernie Sanders or something like that, and he was wearing a physical removal T-shirt that had a helicopter, which was a Pinochet thing. It was from Hoppian.org, which is like this alt-right website. So it's like they're totally mask off, and I mean they're not gonna go anywhere with this. Like, yeah, you'll get on like Tim Pool and Joe Rogan sometimes, but that's not the actual world. That's just like, again, that like 18 to 32 demographic that just really likes edgy stuff and is on the internet a lot. Like that's not actually the entire world.
Right. They vastly have a complete misunderstanding of the world. And I mean, it is, what did Popak call it? Oh yeah, taken over by people too socially awkward to be proud boys.
That's a perfect description. So I only heard part of that. Were you describing Josh Smith trying to photobomb Bernie or whatever?
Yeah, when he was wearing the Pinochet t-shirt.
I mean, I'm no fan of Bernie, but like I said in that Facebook discussion thread, it's a pretty easy call that Bernie is better than Josh Smith.
But like just being the vice chair of the third largest political party, which it probably isn't going to be for long, but and wearing a shirt,
fourth largest by resources.
Okay, and it'd probably be like fifth or sixth in a little bit, but wearing like a t-shirt invoking mass murder by a dictator is not supposed to be the libertarian move. Like, yeah, you're allowed to wear your t-shirt, freedom of speech and all that, but come on now.
Yeah.
Well, it's allowable because it doesn't say happy birthday JBH.
Well, that's the real bad thing. We can talk about murdering people, invoking like this mass murder campaign in the 70s, but if you say happy birthday to the guy who fought the IRS in court, then that's just...
Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, I found that thread where Popat did give Clint quite the smackdown.
What did he say? Like Clint invited him on his podcast, and he was like, "I have to wash my hair that day." I think that's what Popat said. Remember when we had Clint on a few months ago, and I brought up that thing, like he was shit talking me like crazy on actually Josh Smith's show. After I had gotten kicked off, he showed up like a half hour later and was like, "Oh, I wanted to dunk on that little midget bitch John Hudak or whatever." And I brought that up to Clint, and he just like totally sidestepped it, like, and started talking about like, "Oh yeah, we basketball." I thought that was hilarious. I just thought that was hilarious how he like totally backed down. And now he goes around talking about how we're terrible people for the Tom Woods stuff, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, so, yep, this was the LP's McCarthy tweet. Yeah, McCarthy was wrong. Let's see, Pope, read this tweet in the response to see, well, what about the Libertarian Party? It is not a thing and won't be until until it is fire purified of edgelord snort-laughing bigots with fascist fantasies. Okay, yep, and then Popat had said, yes, they've always been taken over by people too socially awkward to be Proud Boys.
That's a perfect description. That really is.
Yeah. Open invite, and then Clint's saying, open invite to discuss your assessment of the current LP leadership on my show. I'll prove you wrong at every turn, or you can continue to slander good people with no facts whatsoever. I just loved it. It's libel, Clint. Written or more specifically typed. If I came on your show and spoke it, it could be slander, except it couldn't be slander because it's figurative opinion and also it's true. Also, I can't come to your show because I have to wash my hair that day.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
It isn't remotely true. If you want to hash it out, let me know. I don't have hair to wash, so I'm free whenever you are. Clint, central and crucial to your project is the demand that I take people like you and your ilk seriously. I decline.
That's perfect.
And then he quote tweeted, and Clint said, "We have better ideas. Your ability to suppress them is failing and now nearing collapse." Just the narcissistic, complete. Just, I don't even know the word for it.
Yeah, they almost raised a quarter of their thing in that telethon, so watch out.
Believe me, we are unserious. By all means, we're still going to change this world and liberate the people who want to be free.
Unless you want an abortion, or you want to immigrate, or you're homeless and you want to go to a park.
Yeah, it's just... I mean, Popat gave him quite the smackdown, but they are literally incapable of being embarrassed because of the narcissism.
One of their leaders, his Twitter handle is Balzania. They're definitely incapable of being embarrassed.
Well, and even with the LP tweet too, there was the entire debacle with Chase, the Georgia Senate candidate, and Dave.
Yeah, Dave had that weird clapback, and everyone was making fun of him for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, he, as I believe the kids call it, a ratio got ratioed.
I think it went away after a while because enough of his fans saw it and gave it some likes. But he was pretty ratioed for a while.
But. And they thought it was a good thing. That means that they triggered the libs if they get ratioed. But, if they ratio somebody, then that's also a good thing. Like, it's just, once again, irritable mental gestures that masquerade around as ideas. That's all it is. That's all the LP is now.
I think the 2024 election, I mean, first and foremost, I would love to actually have a libertarian candidate for, like, just seriously, I would love to have a libertarian candidate that like just doesn't suck and could actually like put through good ideas and actually be like a face of libertarianism in a good way. But since that's not going to be happening, Dave Smith is the candidate with Maj as the vice president, which is probably what's going to happen unless Mises totally falls apart before then, which I mean is possible. But people would have to want to come back. But that duo is just going to be hilarious to watch. It is going to be a shit show beyond shit shows. Because Maj is just going to be going around telling people to suck his dick like he always does. And Dave is just going to be like defending every right winger like any way he can. It's going to be great.
Right. And then the night before the election, Dave will say Trump was a great public servant. And
I'm here to vouch for Trump or DeSantis. If it's DeSantis, it's definitely
I was about to say.
And just the other thing that I'm just always amazed at, and it's not like I know everything. I'm no huge legal expert. I'm not, but I'm not. I'm also like, I if I don't know something, I seek to get myself informed about it and try to understand more. But like Dave, just it's so clear how little these people understand how anything works. And I don't like how a lot of things work, but you still have to understand them. But like, I expect Trump to be charged and eventually banned from running in 2024. How exactly, Dave? Do you know that really the only thing that could possibly get Trump banned from running is finding a way to invoke, is it
14th Amendment?
Article 3 from it, but there is no the enforcement mechanism for that was repealed in I think the 40s. And so there's no real enforcement mechanism besides possibly a lawsuit. And even that, that's a difficult hurdle. I mean, they've tried it for Marjorie Taylor Greene, Madison Cawthorn. That's not going to work. Obviously shuffling around state secrets might be a little bit easier to argue, as far as rebellion against the U.S., depending on what he did with them. But there's otherwise nothing. Trump's over 35. He's lived in the U.S. and now what's the other one? Oh, and is a citizen. Like,
natural born.
Yeah, like that's how things work, and you should understand that if you want to run for president. So it's just hilarious. Oh, one LP thing that we didn't touch on is the kind of the meddling with states that they're currently doing.
Oh yeah,
New Mexico.
New Mexico, and
I've totally lost
Idaho?
track.
Yep,
Idaho sounds right.
Yeah, I stopped paying attention to it because it's very clear what they're going to do. They're just going to side with because there's like two warring factions in both of those parties.
They will always side with the Mises faction no matter what.
Yeah. They just do that every time. It's obvious.
Plain as day, and they don't care about bylaws. They don't care about facts.
Yep.
they will use the bylaws and they will use the facts if they feel those are on their side. But if they aren't, they'll just scream. They'll make really ridiculous hashtags and get everybody angry. And
yeah, states should do what they can to disaffiliate as soon as possible, which I think New Mexico is.
Actually, you know what? They should tweet out as they leave the LP. Hashtag LP divorce.
Decentralization.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
LP
But I mean,
divorce.
states
like
that states that aren't. States should do what they can to protect themselves from the National Party, because eventually the National Party will just set up new affiliates for their own purpose. So yeah, that's because if you disaffiliate as a state party before National starts to get their grubby hands on it, then you at least maintain your structure in your state and whatever status that you have in, I would say, most cases. But yeah, definitely don't sit around and wait. Take positive action.
Yeah, at least do something, because they're going to try to take out anyone who's not or anyone who's not pro Mises. Like it's clear at this point what it is. They want to run it like their own little organization,
right? Their own little social club.
They want to tamp down the democratic element.
They want to get invited to the cocktail parties. That's what they always say about us. I've never been to a cocktail party. I don't even. Oh, I think I froze.
Yep. Yeah.
Hear me now?
There for a sec. Yep.
You're back.
Okay. I froze for a second. I've never been to a cocktail party in my life, and I don't even know what cocktail parties are like. But I've been accused so many times of just wanting to be invited to cocktail parties. It's like their go-to for some reason.
You're a regime libertarian, John.
Yeah. I would say someone like Dave is a regime libertarian.
Mm-hmm. With all that power that you have, remember we lost our power in May.
Yeah. Like what position have I ever had? I've never even been a delegate to anything.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
I run a Facebook page, and I thought it was funny how they were acting like we would just like disappear from the internet after they beat us. Like it was going to be like it's like beating a boss in a video game, like they just disintegrate or something like that. Like they're just like, we won't have to deal with these people again after Reno.
Okay, you didn't have to deal with us before either. I mean, that was kind
like
of always allowed.
It's the exact same thing. We're making the exact same posts we're doing, and it's just. Yeah, it's just, I mean, we don't have like as much of a stake in it anymore, but we're still going to criticize them.
Right.
We don't just disappear. DaveSmith2024.com,
You totally broke up there.
Oh, he had said DaveSmith2024.com.
Okay.
Oh, did I break up? Did it sound like I just said DaveSmith2024? Because I didn't say that. I added the .com. That'll be another clip you can take of me. All right. Do we have anything else we want to touch on today?
No, I don't think so.
You know what? I feel like we haven't brought on like a guest we could argue with in a while. I feel like we got to do that again soon.
Yeah, I could be down for that.
I'll hit some people up. I don't know if we'll get anybody, but maybe Ted will come back on for anyone who remembers him.
Oh, Ted.
Oh, Ted.
Ted.
He was a fun one. All right. Well, thanks to the 5 people here for watching today. And I know we haven't done one in 2 months, but like I always said before, we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Buy shirt, get money. No, other way. We get money. You send money, we get shirt.